So the Great Resignation, this is something that's sort of come about from the COVID era. So what it was taken to mean is that lots of people suddenly were at home for a long time and they thought about how they're living their lives, their careers, are they really happy in what they're doing, or is it just something they were doing? Were they in some sort of mindless treadmill, and could they be in some way happier doing more fulfilling work? In a way, you have the advantage in the public sector that you're already doing something intrinsically fairly fulfilling, with some kind of inbuilt social value. So, yeah, but nevertheless, this Great Resignation has happened, and it's disproportionately affected frontline workers in these contact center type environments. And so, if we look, some 40% or so of people are considering changing jobs in the next year. So a lot of people always considering moving jobs, but that is a lot more than it normally would be. So Great Resignation for me as well. I was hearing a stat this morning that something like 2 million people also have long COVID. So I think that's a kind of hidden factor in this Great Resignation. It's not necessarily that everyone who's turned 50, they just want to go to Cornwall now. I think there's a fair few people who can't work at the moment. Who knows when some of them will be back. COVID, whilst we talk about it in the past tense, is kind of still with us, and for a lot of these people. So contact centres, perhaps unsurprisingly, are a place that experiences generally higher turnover of staff than others. Just have another go with this clicker, it'll work. So on average, staff turnover annually is more than you think, 15%. Imagine you've got 100 people, 15 of them are kind of moving every year. So it's quite a lot less than that in our organisation, thankfully, otherwise you'd be having some sort of leaving drinks every couple of weeks. In the contact centre, over a quarter leave, and this is in kind of normal pre-COVID times. 26% is the average turnover. That's risen to 50-odd%. So if you imagine a situation where you're training people for maybe 12 weeks, 3 months, and then half of them have gone by the end of 12 months, it's a very unsustainable type of situation. But actually, it is being sustained. But given this Great Resignation, the difficulty of actually finding replacement staff, it is a much bigger problem than it used to be. It also has a cost. So the cost that continually comes up for the direct spend on recruitment, etc., is around £6,000 per head. If they're more of a supervisor type contact centre worker, £9,000. So it's actually quite a lot of money, leaving aside all the other disruption to the organisation. If you could get that down by just 5% in a typical 125 person contact centre type environment, this is kind of an average in the sector, you'd be saving the thick end of 50k to use on other initiatives within the organisation. The true costs are obviously much more than that. If you have your HR or people and culture department just focusing on hiring people because so many are leaving, they can't really focus on anything else. So the culture initiatives, things like the continuous development, we have a personal development plan, for example, per person in our organisation, all of that would kind of go out the window or take a back seat at least. The training costs, so once you've got these people in, you spend your £6,000, you've got to allocate training resources to bring them up to speed. So again, that's a further impact. Productivity, while they ramp up, generally it's figured at 8 months before they're properly useful. Which again, 8 months in an environment where half of them have gone after 12 months is pretty grim reading. And then of course if people are leaving all the time, other than maybe the fun of leaving drinks, Morale tends to suffer, so people get a bit demoralised. Everyone else is leaving, so hey, maybe I should leave as well. So that is kind of the canker that takes hold once you have very high churn. And then that starts to impact customer satisfaction and all the other measures that we're trying to keep up the whole time. Apart from average handle time, which we're trying to keep down. So what sort of things are causing these turnover figures? They're myriad. If we kind of break them down, we go to excessive demands, people feeling that they're having to work harder. So 70% of these contact centre workers are saying they're working a lot more. 7 times more calls in many cases than they were dealing with before. So I was quite amazed by that stuff. I don't know what these people were doing before, but anyway, they're doing 7.2 times more call volume. Again, the contact centre is a very strictly monitored environment. People tend not to like that. They're kind of under the cosh. Every second is being monitored. How long is that cigarette break? Have they gone to the loo for too long? They're spending too long wrapping up that call that we just had. So again, unsurprisingly, 41% looking about work-life balance. And then complex issues. We all want our human agents dealing with the complex stuff. So the idea is, of course, to automate the simple algorithmic stuff, make it self-service, and then the things that are more involved require empathy, require decisions. That's where the humans come in. But actually, whilst these agents want to be helpful, they want to serve, they say that they haven't got the tools, they haven't got the data. So again, 83%, nearly all of them are frustrated that they can't help in the way that they'd like to. And that leads to, of course, people feeling stressed out. 96% at least once a week. So a very stressful environment. You're really at the pointy end, dealing with the unhappy resident or the patient that's got a problem, or anyone else. Generally, they're in touch because they're in some negative type situation. Otherwise, they would probably self-service themselves. And then all of that combined with the lack of career progression that's often a feature in these environments, and the fact that you could probably get more elsewhere because of this great resignation, creating vacancies, that all points towards the door. So looking into what are the causes of this burnout, we found a pattern. So you think of, I wanted to be a fighter pilot when I was about 10. Other people want to drive a train. Fewer people aspire to work in a contact centre as their career. As a result, managers know that because they probably started in the contact centre themselves, and now they're happier because they're a manager. But they reckon most of those agents aren't going to stay around that long because they know in these days about 50% of them are leaving within a year. That discourages them from really engaging much. When this person will be useful after 8 months, I've got, if I'm lucky, another 4 months and then maybe they're leaving. So that tends to limit motivation to engage with the staff. Instead, they think, well, let me micromanage these people, and then I can at least make sure they're doing their work, they're complying with all my key performance indicators, and I won't need to kind of deal with them so much. I can look at this dashboard here, it's going to tell me all I need to know. As we already saw, the agents don't really like being the subject of being the ant under the magnifying glass with the sun coming through it. They burn out, they resign, and the cycle of violence continues. So this is what we've kind of evolved as the picture that we want to address. So the solution, because it's not all grim, there is a solution. It's about agent engagement. So engaging the agents, which we saw at point 2 into 3 there, the manager typically hasn't bothered to do because they've got other things to concern themselves with. let's look more at that. And there are good reasons to. So productivity, we're all in search of greater productivity in this country. Engaged teams, 18% more productive. And then the low engagement teams, 43% higher turnover. So even if all we wanted to do was reduce the number of those £6,000 instances that you're getting in your contact centre when engaged, and obviously the productivity side will mean we're going to get more done per worker. So there are good kind of hard-headed, mill-over reasons to do this, as well as making it a nicer place.